maybe having them drawn into their group.
And to grab hold of the game, you have to start in the draft phase. Is going to be Fnatic on the blue side, Young Generation on the red, a Rek'Sai and Kog'Maw ban from Fnatic, and the Kalista to start us off. Kalista still 100% pick ban throughout this tournament.
Yeah, still up there. Xayah is another AD carry that jumps to mind. And now, what happens to Rakan? Lover's taken away, banned on blue side a lot. Is it a first pick Rakan? Because that's what Jez has had, and it did so well for him. His engages were disgusting.
And that bot lane of Fnatic is so reliable. Jez is being a key component of the team. Jarvan banned out as well. Sejuani removed from the pool, and now you're looking Tristana is available for Rekkles if he wants it.
Yeah, the Tristana makes a lot of sense because it's that late game carry for Rekkles, and also I talked about before, probably the safest AD carry to split push and pick up farm with because of her 2 self-peels. So I definitely think that's a great champion for Rekkles and allows him to be self-sufficient. Even if his tanks are behind, this Tristana will still be able to stand and fight with her range. And the fact that Rekkles is just such a great player mechanically.
We have seen Pallet pick up the Thresh before, but instead he goes towards the Lulu this time. Venus will get the Gragas in the jungle. A lot of good disengage and strength there from Young Generation to start off their draft.
And now it's going to put Broxah on something a little bit different, maybe something a little more aggressive in the early game because the Sejuani, the Gragas, and the J4 as well as the Rek'Sai are gone, and that's the Elise. So
you wanted something that was more early game aggressive. Elise definitely does that, and a Syndra for Caps as well. Yesterday he played the LeBlanc into Syndra matchup and struggled a huge deal with it. Here Null has the opportunity to counterpick, but if he does, you start to fall down that AD carry pool because you have to expect Fnatic to try and isolate that role.
Exactly, and now you get to ban out some Syndra counters if you want, or just take care of that top lane and not have too many things jump up in terms of what would be fantastic to play at the moment. The Galio, the Cho'Gath, I feel like deserves a ban.
Rakan's still available here.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get picked. And maybe by Jez's, maybe.
Why? So why won't it get picked out? It could be banned.
Because I think it'll get banned.
Okay. That makes sense, because I was wondering if there was some sort of weird logic where if you have Elise, you're not allowed to pick Rakan. But we'll see if Young Generation ban it out. Fnatic looking towards those mid lane counters that we talked about, removing the LeBlanc from North.
The LeBlanc. So it looks like Caps doesn't want to play the opposite
side of the
matchup, right? Yeah, doesn't want to play it. Maybe he's like, maybe he knows something I don't. And so there's the Rakan being banned away. Yeah, I just don't think it would be seen there because Jez has looked pretty crazy on that champion in terms of taking a game where he was in charge of engage and just constantly engaging and setting up Fnatic into these fights.
It's still the option for him to go something like a Janna and just play super safe in that bot lane. We've seen them play the Tristana Janna already today. Fnatic looking for their next ban here are going to take Shen away from Young Generation.
Cho'Gath jumps to mind as one of the S-tier top laners right now that's available. You could pick him into a lot of these aggressive matchups too, and he'll do fine in scale. Don't know how well it would fit in the composition, but at the same time, let's see. I feel like you pick mid here because of the fact that you already see what you're playing into. Yes, and it's the Kassadin for Null.
Kassadin incredibly strong in that mid lane when utilized to good effect. Of course, has that magic damage shield as well. It's important to note that Young Generation are playing with Nocti today. They played with Ren yesterday and got their first win with Nocti earlier on today against KLG and are now looking for their second against Fnatic, who have just looked in the Braum.
Yeah, great point there. And now, yep, the Cho'Gath, I feel like that would go over to Soaz and now puts pressure on Young Generation. And like you said, Nocti in the top lane helped them get that first win. Now he's going to have to play. If he plays a tank into this, Cho'Gath noms the tanks. If he plays something that's aggressive, he's going to have to get help.
Galio is a strong tank, sitting at a 75% win rate across the tournament thus far. Could have been the Gnar as well, but it is going to be Galio. Nocti known much more for his tank and utility top laners than for the aggressive top laners of Ren.
This Galio really helps Null engage on the backline. So if this Kassadin decides to go ham and jump in, which a lot of the times that's the Kassadin dream, is to get a flank and jump in on an AD carrier, the mid laner behind the backline, the Galio will be able to join him, have that hero's entrance, and keep him safe.
So we're definitely looking towards mid lane. We've seen Null body caps.
He solo killed him twice. So yeah, we're definitely watching to see what happens here because Kassadin's matchups are pretty good now, and we'll see what happens with that double teleport and the fact they have triple global on the side of Young Generation if they can use this.
And want to see how Broxah plays the early game jungle as well. Elise is an early game jungler. It's something Broxah is known for as well. He has played an incredibly strong Elise across the entirety of his career, and he really needs to set up his lanes for success. Bot lane probably going to be a little bit more passive. Rekkles and Jesus are happy to stand back behind the shield when they need to. But looking at top, looking at mid, and looking to see how Fnatic close out their play-ins group stage run.
And you want to end it on that 4-0 if you're Fnatic. You don't want to drop any games, have that hint of weakness. But Null was kind of the one to expose Caps a little bit in that mid lane in terms of how much help he gets. But when you have an Elise up against the Kassadin that sucks at wave clearing early, you can tower dive him pre-6 and have it be something that's very favorable for you. So Fnatic are set up to play around that mid lane if they want to, but it's always the execution. It's always the play style and what goes your way. I like to play the lane game really quickly, which is who wins what lane, just based off of champions. So bottom lane, you would expect Young Generation to win this with the Varus, who's aggressive early into the Tristana, and the fact that this Lulu went aggressive. He's not going for that coin. Coin doesn't have any combat stats on it. It's got 5% CDR. He's gone for the Spell Thief's Edge. So he's looking to just be a harasser up against this Braum. So it's a double range versus a melee and a range in that bottom lane. So Young Generation would win that. Mid lane, Caps will win this typically. Does matter if Kassadin gets favorable trades with his Q, but his wave clear is not comparable to the Syndra, so the Syndra has pressure and priority. And then you have a winning jungle with the Elise. And then top lane for Fnatic, I feel like that's a winning matchup for the Cho'Gath. More often than not, it's more even, but the fact that the Cho'Gath can go through the damage reduction later on of the Galio is important. So Fnatic kind of have this quadrant of Broxah, Caps, and Soaz. This triangle in the top side that I feel like he'll play towards. And bottom will most likely be Rekkles and Jezz like the previous game going, we're cool, bro. We'll just stay underneath the turret, pick up our CS, and we'll be good in the mid-late game.
And the reason that's so good for Fnatic as a strategy, it's something they've used very often in the EU LCS, is that Rekkles and Jezz are so reliable in the 2v2 matchup.
Exactly. And so that's the thing here is we saw them get kind of pressured in that first game where there was a lot on Fix on Chaos Latin Gamers to win bottom side. Now in this game, it looks like Young Generation's team comp is built around 4 or 5-man diving bottom, double teleport, the Kassadin, the Galio, and you have a pressure bottom lane. So if Young Generation hit those level 6s and they're proactive, we could see Jezz's and Rekkles have pressure on this bottom side. And there they go immediately in the tri-brush, trying to chunk out Jezz's so they get pressure.
Bitcoin needs to be a slight bit careful because the explosive charge is on him and the concussive blows teams up pretty well with that as well. We do see Broxah get his level 2, got a super leash to start him off and now is invading straight away, but is on a ward, has been spotted out.
Yeah, it's the pressure and he wants to push, and this is the Elise, right? You want to have early game that's favorable. He's waiting for the skull crab. He was too early, he was too fast.
Insect against insect.
Okay.
Arachnoid against, well, I guess it's a crustacean crab, isn't he?
That's true. Be technically correct, yes. Looks like it was a experience quint for Broxah, and then right here, Venus.
Hasn't got smite, so does actually have to be a little bit cautious because Soaz is looking for the knock-up into the Nom. Soaz steals away the Rift Scuttler.
And that's not just big to take it away. That's really big to actually just get him an advantage in the lane. He'll miss maybe a CS or 2 here. It looks like not much in that wave at all. He's ahead, and it's going to just get him even further ahead, and it's a big chunk of gold.
It's where experience can tell as well. So as such a veteran of the world stage, been here with Origin before, of course. Nocti, a little bit more inexperienced in this top lane, was brought in actually right at the end of Young Generation's playoff run because they needed him to help them reverse sweep. He won the last 3 games for them in the finals. And was able to help Young Generation secure the 2nd seed from GPL to be here today.
Nocti's been that kind of clutch guy. Now he's up in CS, but it's just the wave going back and forth. He's going for an early back. I expect some Dorans to help wave clear. Maybe the old Galio build, we'll see.
Gone are the days of triple Dorans, usually. Sometimes we see a couple of them.
Dark Seal and Dorans, and so you kind of have that 215 AP item, and if you can get a kill or 2, you know, you're up kind of where you were before, but it was mostly the mana regen was the big thing. Just spamming Q every single wave and you were good to go. But that was kind of circumvented now by the fact that the Dark Seal gives you some extra mana and it allows you healing potions. If you go for the Corrupting, they'll also help out there.
Caps forcing in the mid lane as we expected him to do. Null, without that early game pressure that he had yesterday against Caps, he will just be looking to scale up, and Venus setting vision around that mid lane to try and keep his Kassadin safe as much as possible. Something we've seen EU LCS teams and Fnatic especially struggle to do. I look back to Rift Rivals and say they don't really help out Caps in this mid lane. They don't give him those control wards. Broxah is pathing around there, but Young Generation have the advantage down towards that bottom side.
Oh, Broxah also has a large advantage for himself because he's level 5 to the level 3 of Venus, and Venus just cleared a Wolf Camp. He's not level 4. So taking away this Raptor will deny some catch-up experience here.
It's just going to reset. Broxah didn't get the Venomous Bite into the Smite off on it, so decides he doesn't want to do it. Staying around for the time being, as he continues to play around that top side of the map. Rekkles is 10 CS down in this bottom lane, as we kind of expected him to be. There is a big wave here, so we'll have to see how well he's able to farm under the tower. Rekkles always known for his farming capabilities and gets all but 2 of them. So I'll be pretty happy with that in the bottom side of the map.
I've done a ton of research on Rekkles. It was actually going to be a breakdown of mine at one point. And I've just noticed from like a stylistic perspective, he's very confident in his abilities, and the way I kind of extrapolated that was the amount of emphasis he puts on attack speed items. He just bought Double Dagger to try and get Tristana explosive shots off and more stacks, and to attack move, and he really trusts his ability to attack move at max attack speeds. I look at his rune page, and even when he was like, he ran like a single rune page all of spring, even when Jhin and Varus were like lethality and stuff, he was still running like attack speed on these guys. And I was just like, he obviously puts a lot of weight on that. And that's why when he played Kennen, first item was Berserker's Greaves, and he just loved buying daggers. There was a time where he could have bought a full Zeal, and he just bought more daggers instead of completed items. It was just all about attack speed for him because he trusts his ability to stutter step. Things like Twitch and Tristana really benefit there, as well as Kalista, because they have abilities that reward you for getting off as many autos as possible. The Twitch Poison, the Tristana E, and also the Kalista Ren. And that's really what he goes for, because he's just so mechanically good at those types of champions and maximizing his damage output with just attack speed.
Oh. On the other side of the Rift, Big Koro is known as one of the best AD carries over in the GPL. Him alongside Pallet, known as the best bot lane in Vietnam. So they are a very strong matchup against Rekkles and Jezz, who are slightly behind in that bottom lane, as expected. And talking of attack speed, it's triple dagger for Rekkles.
Yeah.
So just continues to stack up those shivs to try and slice down Big Koro and Pallet. Broxah looking for this dive up towards the top side. Noctipox in the shield of Duran.
Oh, Soaz took aggro.
To Soaz. Broxah looking to see if he can get the damage. The beast comes out and Soaz goes down. Good kill for Nocti as here comes Venus. Can he crush the spider under the barrel? Broxah takes a barrel to the face, still has the flash. The Cocoon looking for the flash across the wall, does land a Big Koro engaged on here with the concussive blows.
One more
Rekkles
shot.
needs one more shot but can't quite get there, and now
turn
turns it back around. The heel, the kill, Big Koro with another for Young Generation.
The biggest Koro on the team. He hasn't purchased yet, and they just won a 2-on-2, and Fnatic took that because by the book, yeah, you should win that one, but there was a level advantage. You can see Big Koro is now level 6, Rekkles level 4 because he's taken 2 backs already.
He is the only Koro on the team as well, Zyrene.
Yeah.
He made sure to point that out yesterday. I'm going to point it out once more. But what an advantage for Young Generation against the bot lane that is so consistent for Fnatic. Now being able to get the kill, being able to secure the CS and the level advantage. A 2-level disparity, as you say. Let's have another look at this top lane dive.
Yeah, the top lane dive. This is where Nocti just gets the channel, and he knows it's coming then. Dodges Soaz, and then Soaz gets everything off. It was actually good from Soaz to get all of that off, but it was really good from Nocti to see that moment. Right here, Big Koro, level 5, flashes away, and Rekkles still has heal. Rekkles could heal and push forward for the extra movement speed to hit Koro on the last shot, but he doesn't go for it. He heals afterwards, but the Ignite is down, and that's enough after the stacks and the shield from Jezz's phase away. So honestly, if Rekkles wanted to go real ham, he would have healed there.
Playing into minions as well. Good polymorph from Pallet, because as soon as Rekkles jumped in, he was polymorphed, which meant he wasn't able to get those stacks off even quicker. And it meant that Rekkles had to overextend to try and get the kill.
It's fantastic, though, from Pallet. Like, in those situations, most of the time, the 2 people who are stacked on top of each other will do a lot better, especially because Jezz has had the shield up in one direction. But the fact that Pallet got the slow across multiple people, stopped them from reaching him, and we had that polymorph, made it really good for them. And Pallet, I mean, I'm trying to think back to yesterday. Pallet has some fantastic plays. Constant.
Incredibly strong player. Broxah is snuck into this bottom side of the map, but You can see Fnatic calling for aid in the lane where they are struggling. Pallet knows this is around. The Cocoon doesn't land. Chain of Corruption misses as well to the side. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Norl is going to be able to jump onto Caps a little bit. Not going to do too much to him, but Caps, even with a 20 CS advantage here, hasn't been able to really snowball this lane away from Norl. We saw when Norl was ahead yesterday, he really shut down Caps. Caps here not had the support from the rest of his team that Young Generation provide to their mid laner.
Yeah, but like you said, up 10 CS per minute already for Caps. He's been CSing incredibly well in this matchup. That's pretty easy for him.
But not for Reckless. He's at 57 CS. He's almost half of what he usually is at this stage, and it's great job from Young Generation to shut him down.
Yeah, Reckless is in a pretty bad position, and like I said, they could start 4-manning, 5-manning bottom with these double teleports, and now this mid lane matchup starts flipping a little bit depending on the Kassadin's aggression and who's around. Whoa, he still got stunned.
Done. Dark Sphere, Scud of the Weak is up as well for Caps if he wants it, but he hasn't got heal. Boxer misses, well, doesn't miss the Cocoon, forces the flash from Norl.
Yeah, still very important that he got that out, and now this bottom lane's at a huge disadvantage. Reckless has triple dagger versus this Bilgewater Cutlass and a dagger. And so this is actually just a big disparity.
Interesting to see Pallet isn't rushing an Ardent Sensor here either. Goes for the Frostfang, looks like he's going Sightstone next as well, realizing that perhaps getting that extra attack speed on a Varus isn't quite as important early on, and they want to make sure that if Brox is going to continually come down here and try and save Reckless and Jezzes, that they have vision awareness on that Elise.
Yeah, and Frostfang, well, we'll see what happens here, actually. They're all hiding in this bush down bottom. Reckless stepping up. They're going to exploit him.
Of it. There we go. He has to jump across the wall. Chased. Glitter Lance. Ignite.
Wow!
Long shot. The Vietnamese sniper from Big Koro as he gets the kill from long range.
Big Koro is just shutting him down. And Reckless, this is going to go from bad to worse because Tristana, I talked about Reckless's style of buying a lot of attack speed sometimes and the way that his rune pages are set up, like all attack speed blues, 2 attack speed quintessences, a lifesteal quint, and then he has 3 attack speed reds. He has so much attack speed in his page, very little AD, and it looks like he was maybe going for early, maybe Static Shiv here to help wave clear, something along those lines. But now, low damage, low attack damage behind Tristana already having a lot of attack speed from her Q is going to make it very difficult for him to start picking up this CS quickly and getting into this game. And this was just, Pallet Man has been doing so much damage here.
So much work as well.
Yeah, the fact he upgraded that Frostfang has actually been huge. And the fact that he didn't go for the coin, didn't go for passivity, saying it's time to go back to the beginning of the year where everybody was buying this Frostfang, everybody was just auto-attacking, trying to get an advantage in the lane.
And it's important to look at the advantage that Young Generation have gained as well, because 12 minutes in, they're already 1,200 gold ahead. If this was a tier 1 seed, if this was the other way around, if Fnatic were this far ahead, we'd say the game is slipping away from Young Generation. Here, Fnatic need to show us that they have mental strength, that they're able to come back from this sort of deficit, because it's their consistent players who are faltering at the moment.
Yeah, and you look at where this advantage is, 600 gold advantage on the Elise. We saw that he was up a little bit early. Bottom lane, 13 to 1,400 gold advantage for Big Koro, and then on Pallet, there's a 600 gold advantage for him as well.
That's monumental. Having it basically 2,000 gold ahead in just a single lane is absolutely devastating. They've already got first tower blood to bot, now they rotate to top, they force SOS out of position. This is superlative stuff from Young Generation. They are showing us why the GPL deserved a second seed after Gigabyte Marines did so well at MSI.
Yeah, after day 1, it was kind of like, okay, what's going on? They lost to Chaos Latin Gamers, and then they ended up taking Fnatic to 52 minutes and dropping the ball. Right here, though, 4 people from Fnatic on the bottom side for Nocti.
But Nocti gets out, does have to burn the flash. They're going to get the tower, but look at the top side of the map. Big Koro and Pallet are still pushing in. Venus here to help as well. And at the moment, the whole game is revolving around this bot lane from Young Generation.
And Nocti was able to help clear that wave out, so it's actually a huge tempo advantage. This is going to go 3 turrets up to 1 here. And they don't have a minion wave after this, but they'll be able to clear the next one and get complete control of this area.
And you've got Rift Herald up there if you want it as well, and Ocean Drake not as important in the early game. Get the Rift Herald, get mid tower. If you look at mid lane as well, this is the lane we said Caps needed to dominate. He's only 14 CS ahead, Cyrene. He hasn't been able to kill the Kassadin. He hasn't been able to shut down Norl. And Young Generation are just looking absolutely dominant in this game.
And the way that Young Generation took that last game against Fnatic so long was because of Null and the mid lane priority, but now it's just the bottom lane outclassing Fnatic's bottom lane with an aggressive matchup. They were able to push it, and they got those 2-on-2 kills in a fight that Fnatic picked.
what I love about this as well is a lot of people came into this game saying, look, Young Generation may cause an upset, but this isn't an upset. This is them just playing better than Fnatic. It's not like they've had a mechanical misplay from Fnatic that's allowed them to get this lead. They destroyed the bottom lane of Reckless and Jez's, and they're taking their fate into their own hands. They're saying, we don't want to go to a tiebreaker. We don't want to have to face Chaos Latin gamers again. If we get this 2-2 in the group, then we get the second seed going into the elimination matches next week.
Yeah, and they've only lost a single turret here up against the 3 that they've been able to take. And now they have Rift Herald to look mid, and they put their bottom lane, which has been doing so well, like you said, mid. They're trying to go by the book here. This should be a Rift Herald down mid, an aggressive play, trying to make sure that the Syndra just can't keep wave clearing and get that Ocean Drake, get whatever they can at this point in the game. Because we saw what happened with Fnatic in that 26-minute game. Reckless will pick up the farm. It's what's just going to happen in these side lanes. He'll get to his 2-item spike. You want to try to head him off, get enough of an advantage where that doesn't matter, or you slow that down.
Pallet has to flash away from Soaz, and Fnatic grouping up as 5 men mid. Not something we commonly see from them. Usually someone in a side lane.
Yeah, it's because the 1-3-1 is coming out from Young Generation. They're trying to maximize farm on the Kassadin and get somebody to answer him. Because as soon as somebody answers this Kassadin in the bottom side that doesn't have a TP like Soaz, who blew it earlier, the 3 globals of Young Generation give them so much proactivity.
Young Generation do have the opportunities, you say, to continue with this 1-3-1 basically throughout the entire game. Double TP, Hero's entrance as well. You can get a Lich Bane on your Kassadin to improve that turret-taking ability.
Yeah.
And you can use Rift Herald, but that's scattered, and that Rift Herald should be cancelled out, but Caps goes low. The explosive cast takes him down, and Young Generation used the Rift Herald as a bit of a bait and looked towards mid.
Well, I feel like he didn't know that was going to happen. He got picked up. Caps went forward, blew both summoner spells, and it's going to be the same result as if they had picked up that Rift Herald and used it here. Unless this wave gets cleared.
Roxer there with the volatile
Null from behind on Jez's.
On the flank. 1 minion remains, but here comes Reckless. Null jumps in, trying to take the tower first. Wild Growth, knock up with the Glacial Fissure. The stun down, and Reckless gets a kill. Null a little bit over-aggressive for that mid lane tower.
Yeah, the fact that the wave clear came through from Broxa, and then it was just a flank from Null, and he tried to just hit the turret, and the rest of his team wasn't on the same page. Big Koro actually took a decent amount of damage there, and he had to back up, so that turret still stands, and the Rift Herald fizzles out after Cap's play of sacrificing himself.
Reckless once again pushing forward a little bit. We've seen Jez's and Reckless on this Tristana bomb combo before. It's what helped them hold out against H2K in the regional qualifiers, but now they're trying to defend this turret. It is low, down to about 100 HP or so. Not quite going to go down yet. And it's important to note as well, Fnatic have already secured the first seed in this group. This is a game more for practice for them on the stage. Of course, they want to have a 4-0 victory, but if they do lose against Young Generation, it doesn't mean anything towards their first seed hopes.
Wow, baited it forward, but he gets what he wants and stops it. What? Koro there, stepping up, big Koro, doing work.
That he is, Big Koro and Pallet, as you say, doing a very good job. Null, in fact, I could list off every member of Young Generation and say how well they've played, not only in this game, but across the course of today. Yesterday, perhaps a little bit of a blip for them, but they have definitely acclimatized and adjusted towards the Wuhan world stage today.
Yeah, Venus, in my opinion, is kind of the one player where I'm not watching him step up as much as some of the others here, where everybody's kind of had those standout moments. Venus is just by the book, pretty consistent so far. And now they're just going to get tempo mid. He's there as well. And it might be another 2 turret for 1 trade. And on top of it, the Kassadin is shoving bottom lane. So they can go to the Dragon if they want, or they can go take a tier 2 bottom if it's not answered in time.
5 towers to 2 in favor of Young Generation. They are 3,000 gold ahead and looking like they want to close this one out pretty quickly. It could be a 26-minute game going the opposite way to what most people expected. Young Generation not going to go completely in for this tower in the bot lane, perhaps accepting the fact that Fnatic were able to respond.
Yeah, they're like, we're ahead. We don't have to really push anything just yet. But now you see 2 items for Big Koro. Reckless on that 1.5 was kind of rushing the Static Shiv in that situation to look for wave clear and look for the ability to pick up CS later, but now he finds himself 1,700 gold behind his lane opponent, and Pallet is up almost 1,000.
The rewards behind Reckless and Jez's here, and there are 2 members of Young Generation bot. I think if there's an opportunity for Null to teleport in here, or for Noxy to get there, they might take this.
And remember, when we talked about this at the start, it was 4 people in the bottom is the ideal situation for Young Generation to just destroy Reckless and Jez's. That's what this composition is built to do in the mid-late game. Fnatic, on the other hand, that 3-man unit of the top side of the map, abandoned bottom, and then have Caps, Brox, and Soaz get something done. We saw Soaz roam early to stop Venus from like Scuttle Crab because he had priority, but then Caps and Broxa haven't had that same pair up, but Brox has done all right so far. Brox has been in the good position. It's just now the time that he's actually on that champion that he needs to have a good early game, he's had it, but the rest of his team just hasn't had much of the same.
And he had to go bot a lot to help relieve pressure onto Reckless and Jez's. Fnatic perhaps could have just given up that lane a little bit more and said, okay, we get Caps ahead in mid. We shut down Null before he gets the Rift Walk. Young Generation doing a good job of drawing Fnatic where they wanted them on this map.
And we saw him try to go top, right, in that dive. And that 2v1 dive where it went 1-for-1 for first blood was actually pretty big, with Broxa picking that one up and then Nocti getting one back. And that's where, you know, your bottom side of the map is losing. You want to get something top. It didn't work out exactly like he wanted. And that would have been what he was looking for, some type of advantage in push. You can push into jungle afterwards, get something. And because Young Generation just had that 2-on-2 bottom go their way, even with an item disadvantage, they end up slingshotting ahead.
Fnatic force mid, they will be able to get this tower down. Tristana very good at taking turrets, even when slightly behind. Quickly want to take stock of sort of how the game is positioned here, Irene.
Yeah, especially in position with Big Coral going top. He's pulling a Reckless right now. He's just going to the side lane, trying to pick up farm, and make sure Reckless doesn't, you know, get back into the game or get ahead of him, try to match him. But Reckless is now going to go top, pick up that farm himself, and try to get back into the game. He's almost at that 2-item power spike for himself. But Baron is now on the table for both these teams.
You have 2 items on Big Koa as well, alongside a QSS, which can be vital in these fights if he uses it effectively. As you say, I would like to see Null being the one in this side lane, pushing it out, because he's got the teleport, he's got the Rift Walk, he's got the ability to join up the fight. Isn't going to go towards the Lich Bane quite yet, instead building up towards a Zhonya's Hourglass to keep himself a little bit safer in these battles.
And I talked about this in the previous game where, you know, just because a team is behind doesn't mean they're in a worse position overall. Because right now, with Young Generation, the position that they're in is one that's advantageous, but they would love to get that tier 2 bottom turret. But they can't because Baron is up. Baron is on the table. If you put 2 people bottom, it's not going to work. You have to put somebody like Null bottom and have maybe 2 people like Null and Nocti go after Soaz, and then they'd be able to teleport in afterwards. So that's kind of how you mix this up. So they have options, but they're not really in an enormously advantageous position because they need to force the tempo before Reckless gets back online.
Once again, the tank battle in the bottom lane when the Baron is available is something we see so often now. Neither of these tanks really should be able to solo kill the other. You're going to have to look at one of the junglers coming down to help that out. Both of them have pretty good sustain across the board, and Nocti's done a very good job today. He's going to teleport behind the Tristana here.
They see it.
Boxer spots out Null. Syndra's going to trade there as well. Here comes the hero's entrance. Null is the one they want to keep safe, and already, actually, Reckless is staying around here. He's jumped up towards the top side. He's going to go onto a ward.
I see him now.
There we are. He's going to be seen there. Now he's backing. Reckless, you're on a pink ward. Venus jumps across the wall. Reckless, you're on a ward, my man. And there comes the explosive cast, knocking back Pallet with the wild growth. And Reckless is dead. He just was not aware of the vision from Young Generation. And now this could spell a Baron for YG.
He could see it. He just didn't respect it. And then the cast came over.
Null's jumping in onto Jez's and Boxer here as Boxer is forced back. Young Generation don't quite want to pull the trigger on the Baron yet, and they will have the teleport coming in here from Soaz as well.
It looks like a bait. They're all just standing there. They're standing there. They know they don't have vision because of the control board. They're going to try to catch somebody who walks up.
There, they're going to catch out Caps, who flashes away. Null jumps straight into a cocoon. Jez's puts up the Unbreakable and tries to shield the rest of the Fnatic lineup. Null continuing to press forward. Caps is low. Already Jez is dead. Null still alive in the front line. Soaz there doesn't have the beast, so he can't nom down on the Young Generation. And the Millennials are winning this battle. They've killed so many industries, and at the moment they are killing Fnatic. Young Generation looking for Broxer. Big Koro going to face straight into him. The cocoon hits. Pallet flashes away, and that's who Broxer wanted. Now Broxer knocked airborne. That's a dead jungler, and Young Generation can look straight towards the Baron if they want.
And Young Generation didn't give a damn about their minion waves. There's a gigantic one on the top side. There was one that was pushing towards their tier 2 mid. They're saying the Baron threat is way too much for Fnatic to say, we'll go mid and you can get Baron. Fnatic tried to check it, and then Caps got caught being too far forward, even though he had a bit of a tank line there.
Young Generation don't give a damn about Fnatic's legacy. They are the newcomers. They are the second seed from the GPL, and they are the team that are about to take Baron away from Fnatic. And Fnatic have something to say about this.
Keep this Cho'Gath out if you're Young Generation.
No feast for him just quite yet.
Almost.
2,000 HP on that Baron. His Jez is in the front line. Caps up towards the side, trying to steal it. Can't get it. 51 HP, and the Galio secures it. And now Fnatic have to run for the hills because Jez is going to go down. Young Generation, 8 kills to 2 up. A Baron in their back pocket, and they are destroying Fnatic.
The last time they played each other, Young Generation never had an advantage this big. The 5,000 gold that they've accrued from the bottom lane, from this bait, from these kills. They are playing this so well, from the picks to the fact that they played it out and baited this. This is what you were expecting from a team that was the sister team of the Gigabyte Marines. Clever, sleuth, able to find their ways into these fights. And that was just incredibly well played.
And taking control of their own destiny as well, looking for that second seed of the group, looking to show Cloud9 and Team WE and either Fenerbahce or the Hong Kong Attitude that they are a team to be reckoned with. They are a team that you have to fear coming into the elimination matches in the next few days.
There was an Infernal Dragon that went over to Young Generation during that, so they're getting even more. This Baron buff, the fact that they have the 1-3-1 and composition, they can push multiple lanes. They have the ultimate from the Galio, and so as just split pushing, trying to get something.
For this game, I was wondering if I could continue to cast 2 tiebreakers tonight. Well, Young Generation have done me a favor because they want to make it only one. Fnatic holding on to their base. Nocti's in mid, pushing for that inhibitor tower, the knockback. There's the cocoon onto Nord. Fnatic do not pull the trigger. Nocti's still in mid. There's the root, the knockback. Explosive cast used, unbreakable, put up by Jezis as they try and defend this turret. They continue to keep at bay the Young Generation, but Fnatic are looking weak at the moment.
Yes, they're looking incredibly weak. Even you just look at the gold that Reckless has, he has almost the same amount of gold as Venus. All the carries on the side of Young Generation just have more gold than Reckless, and he's only got 2 items completed now. He really wants that rapid fire cannon, that 3-item spike, that one that lets him kite around really heavily. But this is a start. But I feel like Young Generation are just going to run away with this.
So as comes down, there is a Hero's Entrance available for Nocti, but at the moment he is just pushing mid, getting that inhibitor for himself. They split it up. It's a 1-4, not the 1-3-1 quite yet. Null deciding he wants to be with the team. He needs to be there from the start. Chip damage after chip damage on towards this tower. Biko walks up the shield, and they will get the turret. Fnatic unable to defend their base as Young Generation crack into it. So as knockback, he popped the Righteous Glory. Here's Nocti as well joining the fight. Jezis jumps forward. Reckless and Caps are looking for it. They're on the backline. The cocoon doesn't connect. The Taunt does, and Jezis once again has to step back. They cannot find inroads. They cannot find a point of weakness in this Young Generation.
And I was watching the player cams right before that, Soaz with his fingers to his temple, figuring out, stressing, what are we going to do here? This is not a good situation for the team. And they're trying to find some weakness, like you said, trying to find an engage there so they don't have to just give up the inhibitor. And now Young Generation in a spot where they have enough of an advantage early on, and it's not towards that 6-item point just yet, that they'll be able to push this, get more, press this wave that they have. And they don't have to worry too much about that bottom inhib. You can see, though, Null, is he trying to be a hero? He's kind of, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I've seen backdoors from Fnatic in the past.
That's
Null is trying to do what Fnatic did against SK to them.
I don't know if it's that extreme, but he's trying to pull people to him. He's got ample wards on that side that just got cleared out by Jez's and also Caps. But there's a siege on the top side with like a 4-stack minion wave here. They need to clear this out. They need Caps.
No Baron buff remains on Young Generation, though, so that minion wave is going to get cleared out by Reckless and by Caps. Reckless struggling this game. Already has 3 deaths. He only died once yesterday.
The 1-3-1.
Null is down towards that bottom side. It's the 1-3-1. The Sheen has been completed on that Kassadin.
Yeah, wants that Lich Bane to help him slip push, but he has the teleport. Nocti has the 2 globals. And this is how you pull them apart, because they don't have 2 teleports to match you. And you can just be in multiple places or provide multiple places pressure simultaneously.
Now, the Baron power play did not look too impressive, only 1,800 gold, but they cracked the base of Fnatic, and they allowed this 1-3-1 to really take effect.
But a lot of it is they got the kills before they took the Baron, right? It wasn't afterwards, so it's not going to add up into that Baron power play. They got a decent amount of gold from that, and you can see right now, oh, Reckless,
Hero's Entrance is coming bot because they want to kill Soaz. Null is going in. Soaz has to run. He has got the feast. Feral Screen comes out. There's the Gargoyles as well. Reckless and Brox are on their way, and now they're going to turn it back on towards Nocti, perhaps an overstay by the Young Generation, but Nocti and Null will back away, and they're getting turrets up in the top lane, in the mid lane as well. Venus is pushing for these towers.
Now, Venus is the one who's really providing that pressure. So Caps is able to just walk around. He's the one who's pretty much that primary wave clear at the moment. And Null, there's TP.
So as wants this, Null has half mana. Feral Screen comes out. He will Void Rift away. Still has the flash as well. Om is not enough. He cannot eat down that delicious Cassadin nugget, and meanwhile the rest of Young Generation are going for this. You can tell Soaz wants the kill, but he just can't do enough.
And the facepalm there from him. He knows that it's a stressful situation, and this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about high variance plays. There's a chance that works out, low chance that it does work, but you have to take those plays in this situation, and that's what he's feeling right now, is that pressure.
Importantly though, that inhibitor stands, so does the mid lane tower. Fnatic are getting to a point where you have a 3-item AD carry. They are starting to scale just a little bit more.
Thing that sucks though, Soaz no longer has the flash for a flash attempted steal on Baron, and he doesn't have teleport for when that's up. So now you're gonna get pulled apart by these double teleports that are both up by Young Generation, and you won't have one to answer yourself. So Fnatic, if they really want to contest this Baron, they probably have to get there first.
Or force out a teleport somehow, force out a play in the bottom lane and then fight up towards it. There's an Ocean Drake up in 30 seconds as well. Young Generation will be happy to secure that. Pretty easy to do because there is no vision for Fnatic at all.
So what Fnatic are going to try to do is get mid priority, go to Baron, try to get it or force a fight and force teleports to them. But Null may just get this split push going.
Soaz is going down bot without teleport here as well.
Okay.
Null can trade into him pretty effectively if he can dodge around enough, and now Young Generation will be the team looking to take the front foot, looking to get the vision control around this Baron.
You can see Soaz clears the wave, runs up, and Null is just going to run right back down bottom. And there's this window here of only a few seconds where you have to find something on Young Generation if you're Fnatic, and they may have found it with Nocti, but he's hella tank.
Yeah, should have drowned will keep him alive for the time being. Knocked back from Venus. That's an ultimate use.
It's a good disengage though, because that allows Null to continue pushing this bottom side.
I think they kept Soaz around across towards the top side as well. It
Mid.
might just be Fnatic giving up this inhibitor, but they've been played across the map. Perhaps they've even played themselves because they are investing time into this Baron, and Young Generation are investing time into the base. They're looking for it. 3 members against 2. Venus looking for the steal as well. Knocked back with the buster shot. Fnatic get the empowered recalls from the Baron, but can they get away from Nocti and Venus? Because at the moment their Nexus towers are falling. Young Generation are looking for the upset of the tournament as they go for the Nexus towers. The backs come out. Null is jumping around. Null could do the Cassadin. He can do the back door. He's looking for it. Is he going to get it against Fnatic? Rox has killed one. Null, Pallet, Nocti. Young Generation get the win against Fnatic.
No tiebreaker. Young Generation are the #2 team out of the group, taking down Fnatic.
I told you he'd do it. I told you he'd do it. Null with an amazing play. Young Generation just blowing my mind with how well they played that game. It was methodical. It was clean. They only needed 8 kills to beat Fnatic.
And we're talking about macro. That was a game where once they had an advantage, they knew how to leverage it. That is knowing that, hey, we got the dagger in. How do we twist this thing? A lot of teams drop that step and say, we have this 1,000 gold advantage, 2,000. They knew exactly what to do with it. They got the advantage bottom, swapped to get turrets. Even though the Rift Herald failed mid, they were able to keep pushing, and they used that advantage and the 1-3-1 to pull Fnatic apart. And you saw Fnatic desperate in this game. You saw them try so much, the Baron, the Soaz TP, and Young Generation were just like, we know what we're going to do. We're not going to play your game. We're going to keep playing ours because you're flustered.
And Fnatic, fortunate they'd already secured the first seed by then, because after that sort of game, perhaps they would have struggled in the future.
Well, you think about it, the first time they played against them, it was a 52-minute long game that could have gone either way. And in this game, this was one that Young Generation came out on top from much cleaner play. This literally could have been a group that was still up in the air where we would have had Young Generation right up there next to Fnatic.
Well, to break down that monumental game, let's send it over to our analysts.
All right, I think we have to jump into the first thing first, which is the final moment of action there.
Oh boy.
It's a little bit weird to watch a Cassadin end a game so confidently against Fnatic. Just like that. It feels a little historic, if we're honest. So let's just jump into it. The final replay, the final moments. because it was so absolutely intense.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want Medic as my doctor if this is methodical and clean. This was a bit of a crazy play that they went for here. They sneak people down to the bot lane to go for the push while they basically give up the Baron. Nocti not quite able to stop everybody, but he does buy enough time.
Yeah, he buys time and even gets to teleport in at the end as if Null wasn't going to be enough. Now he uses the Zonias and everyone Fnatic is like, disregard the Sheen
Get
using
the 80
Casper.
carry.
Make sure the 80 carry dies, and they forget about him in the end, and he's just too hard to kill, so suddenly the game's over.
Yeah, I love Nocti spamming his emote too, knowing that it's all but done, and he's quickly becoming one of my favorite players in this group.
Man of the hour, we have to say. Coming in, subbed in for the team, subbed in too to get them here, coming in clutch across the board, and just being a huge part of this win overall.
Yeah, I think he plays a lot of situations very intelligently that it seemed like Ren was struggling in. Like when an 80 carry is walking up to his turret and he's the only one that you see, he knows, hey, there's probably more members flanking around behind me, so I'm going to back off. And while he's playing as a rock on the top side, a big surprise was the bot lane.
Yeah, it really was. Reckless, very aggressive earlier in the game with his support of Jessus, and whilst this is like something you're used to seeing from them, you're not often used to seeing that going poorly that early on, and then happening a second time. And Reckless is the one member of the Fnatic roster that has been the rock, has been solid, has been really good for them. This is the first time I've really seen him exposed and beaten around.
And that's the thing that we talked about earlier today, was that it always feels like a different member of Fnatic is collapsing when they do look bad in some of these early games, but we said it was never really going to be Reckless, but here he felt like the biggest liability, and unfortunately for the team, this continued as we move later in the game. And when we look at this next play, this one is pretty inexcusable.
Yeah, you see Venus basically trying to check the range of his ult there, seeing if he needs to flash over, realizes he can knock him back, gets Reckless into the team, and then while this is still a very scrappy play that ends up happening, they, instead of going for the Baron right away or anything like that, they go for the bait. It takes a little bit of time. Still a lot of flashes up available for both teams, so they're not actually able to cleanly convert. But this does eventually lead to a long chase down sequence where they're able to pick people off. Broxa has a bit of a head scratching play. He goes down, and despite the fact that it did feel like Young Generation was kind of towing the line of being able to close this game out, they eventually do make the big play.
They never felt confident enough to just hit the Baron by itself. They always felt like this lingering possibility of Fnatic coming in and stealing it as Broxa decides he wants 2 targets at once but can't get any of them. Will also be going down. That's the jungler. That's actually the Baron because the smite's gone. Remember how all of this started, an inexcusable mistake from the AD carry of the team.
Small mistakes from Broxa there as well. Mistakes across the board, surprising to see, but at the opposite side, we have to praise Young Generation. They were poised to play a tiebreaker here, but they pulled off a fantastic win. This looked nothing like the last game that they played against Fnatic, and not in any way that I thought it would. I thought Fnatic would come back stronger, but it was Young Generation who really showed up. Big Koro, I think, being a very large part of that immediately off the bat in that laning phase.
And definitely not someone who had drawn too much attention to himself earlier in the tournament. He was, you know, kind of the afterthought behind Null stepping up and Nocti looking in good as he subbed in. All these other people were getting a lot of the limelight, and then he finally has a huge game, smashes what many people would consider one of the best AD carries in the entire playing stage.
And now looking at Group C and D, I think the big thing is that we now have 2 different teams, in the case of Fenerbahce, very close to number 1. In this case, Young Generation coming in as number 2. These guys have beaten the number 1 seeds, and I think now you're going, I don't want to play this guy if you're the number 1 seed from another group, because Young Generation have looked pretty impressive, but it's going to be interesting to see what they can do against some of these other Pool 1 seeds when they make it into the elimination stage.
It's a very scary thing to consider now because even Lion looked fantastic in their games even though they went down to Team WE. So the